It's Friday, December 13. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simona Absalom. The Jamaica Public Service Company Limited, JPS, and the National Water Commission, NWC, continue to underperform in service standards, which require them to notify customers about planned outages. That's according to the latest July 2019 September quarterly performance report published by the Office of Utilities Regulation, the OUR. Based on NWC's notification to the public, the OUR said it attained a dismal 60% compliance rate to provide at least 24 hours notice for disruptions of a duration greater than 4 hours, which is 30% points less than the established target. OUR said that the NWC's 60% compliance rate represents a 22 percentage point decrease over the preceding period. The private sector is calling for the leadership of the nation's political parties to keep their teams focused on a collaborative approach to fighting crime. In a statement released Thursday, the private sector organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, urged the party's leadership to have their respective spokespersons to, quote, channel their efforts towards expediting the much-needed national consensus on crime, end quote. In October, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, leader of the opposition Dr. Peter Phillips, and several private sector organizations attended an anti-crime summit which was aimed at developing a collaborative national consensus on crime. The PSOJ said, however, that the private sector has noticed that the discourse has moved away from being collaborative to once again being combative. On Thursday, the Jamaica Civil Service Association, JSCA, donated $100,000 each to 4 health facilities from the proceeds of the JSCA's Centenary Charity Grand Prix 5K Run Walk. The beneficiaries are the St. Anne's Bay Health Department in the Northeast Regional Health Authority, White House Health Center, Western Regional Health Authority, Mandeville Health Center, Southern Regional Health Authority, and the Kingston Public Hospital, Southeast Regional Health Authority. The money will be used to purchase an otoscope and defibrillator machine at the White House Health Center, to retrofit the outpatient department, North and South Wing, with new chairs, ceiling fans, and cabinets at KPH, to produce supplies or purchase supplies at the St. Anne's Bay Health Department, and to expand the parental health clinic at the Mandeville Health Center. The entities were selected by the respective regional directors based on the needs identified. The government is exploring the option of building entertainment zones. This from Entertainment, Sport, Culture and Gender Minister Olivia Grange. She was addressing a press briefing.
Government has determined that we have to build out entertainment zones so that those who want to party for 24 to 24/7, the facilities will be there. And those facilities will be affordable. They'll be public spaces. And we have announced the build out of the first entertainment zone, which is at Fort Rocky and environs.
The minister also addressed concerns about the affordability of such zones.
What is being offered is a facility where you will not be under the restrictions that you would have in a built-up area where it's a mix of residential and commercial.
Though details on these entertainment zones were not spelled out, for his part, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang threw out a challenge to local entertainers to build venues such as clubs, which would neutralize noise abatement breaches.
Entertainers who are here must begin to talk to the professionals in the field, especially the big professionals. They must begin to build a place of entertainment that the KCC can approve. If you have a club and you're playing your music till 4 o'clock, nobody disturbs you because you're not disturbing anybody. And the big entertainers must now invest in that kind of facility. And it has many advantages, which if questions come, we can answer. To have a venue that is permanently established as a place of entertainment provides for more opportunities for development and both the development of entrepreneurs entrepreneurial entertainers, young entertainers coming forward, as well as business.
The House of Representatives on Tuesday agreed to temporarily amend the Noise Abatement Act to allow for extended periods for parties during the weekend and on weekdays. The police can allow parties which currently have to end at midnight on weekdays to go until 2 a.m. and on weekends a new closing time has been extended from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Prime Minister Andrew Holness held bilateral talks with Japanese Shinzo Abe on Tuesday. Mr. Holness said they had discussions on the scope of Jamaica-Japan relations, with both countries sharing visions on how to further enhance our engagement for mutual benefits. Mr. Holness' official work visit to Japan began on Wednesday, where he received a ceremonial welcome known as the Guard of Honor on behalf of the government of Japan. Motorists are set to benefit from a new CAC Jamaica app. They'll see the cost of petrol at gas stations in Jamaica, launched by the Consumer Affairs Commission. The app shows users where gas stations are in Jamaica, the distance the user is away from various gas stations, and the different prices gas is being sold for by stations registered with the CAC. The CAC Jamaica app, which can now be downloaded through the Google Play Store, was launched at the John R. Wong supermarkets in New Kingston on December 11. Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, Floyd Green, tested the app himself to compare the gas prices per gas station nearest to him at the launch.
One of the beauties of this app is that wherever you are in Jamaica, you can pull up and see the nearest petrol station with the best price.
An employee of the Mico University College has been charged with stealing nearly $2 million from the institution. According to a report from RJR, 24-year-old Tafari Smith appeared before the St. Andrew Parish Court on Wednesday, where he was offered bail in the sum of $800,000. Fraud Squad investigators reported that between November 2016 and last month, Mr. Smith, a clerical worker, prepared fake invoices and pocketed $1.7 million in cash. The fraud was uncovered last month by Mico University. Mr. Smith is to return to court in February. And in this week's report on Culinary Trails, we take a trip to Africa through Cafe Africa on Trafalgar Road in Kingston. Welcome to another episode of Culinary Trails. I'm Simone Absalom. In this episode, we'll be going back to our roots, going back to menus from the motherland. Welcome to Cafe Africa.
Cafe Africa is open daily. We really are open by reservation. We're an RSVP only restaurant, whether you're calling for a catering or whether you want to come in and dine.
You're not really usually known as a restaurateur. You're known for your activism for black people. You're known as the president of the UNIA.
Cafe Africa was established by the Kingston division of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Of course, that's the organization that was founded by Marcus Garvey in Jamaica in July of 1914. So, you know, we operate out of a property that was formerly the personal offices of Marcus Garvey right here at 2 Trafalgar Road. A lot of people don't know the reason the bust of him is in the yard is because he once owned the property. So it really wasn't my personal initiative, but rather, you know, for many years we've been involved in rebuilding the Universal Negro Improvement Association in Jamaica And of course, in its heyday, when Garvey was our President General, the UNIA operated several businesses under their corporate banner, the African Communities League. This included restaurants, grocery stores, hotels, schools, farms, and eventually the infamous Black Star Line, which coincidentally this year, 2019, marks the centenary, the 100-year anniversary of the incorporation of the Black Star Line. But before the Black Star Line, there was the Universal Restaurant Garvey opened in Harlem, New York. So we came with Universal Africa Restaurants, which is the holding company, but we operate under the banner of Cafe Africa. So what we've done is chosen, dishes that we think will resonate with the Jamaican palate, recognizing the fact that our own cuisine is African-based because we are a people majority African descendant. So we're up to now 27 countries, that's half the continent. So we do dishes from places like Egypt and Morocco in the north, to Kenya, Tanzania in the east, Mozambique, South Africa in the south. We do dishes from Congo, Central African Republic in the center, and of course Nigeria, Gambia, Senegal in the west, So I'm not sure I named all 27 there, but last count was we had at least one dish from 27 countries in Africa.
I see you have some utensils here. You were telling me a bit about them. How do you incorporate that in the experience?
Well, we wash everybody's hands before they eat, and primarily because a lot of our dishes, patrons may choose to eat with fufu, or they may choose to eat with ugali, or they may choose to eat with milipap, or they may choose to eat with sadza. What am I talking about? Those are regional names basically for the same sort of starchy product, whether made from plantain or cassava or yam. It's pounded down, then rehydrated in water and made into like a soft dumpling. But you don't use knife and fork. You break it with your hand, you dip it in your stew, and you savor it. So much as you may go to a Chinese restaurant or a Japanese restaurant and like to use chopsticks, we like to give you an authentic feel here. So if you're going to be ordering fufu, you're going to be eating with your hands. I'm going to be giving you samples of at least one dish from each region. So I'm going to give you something from the south, I'm going to give you something from the east, I'm going to give you something from the west, maybe something from the north. So you'll be trying two different types of rices, East African, West African. You'll be having a mchicha, which is from Tanzania, with a little fufu, which is from West Africa. That's the one you eat with your fingers. And I'm also going to be featuring bubuti, which is the national dish of South Africa, and a little chicken domoda being the national dish of Gambia. So I'm taking you all over the continent, and we're going to be stopping in on about a half dozen countries today.
All right, well, I can't wait to taste it. Sounds delicious. Excellent.
Love it.
The US dollar on Thursday, December 12, ended trading at Jamaican $134.51, down by 5 cents. That's according to the Bank of Jamaica's daily foreign exchange trading summary. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $103, up from $102, while the British pound sterling ended trading at $175.09, down from $177.91. In regional news, a group of indigenous banks are taking over the operations of Royal Bank of Canada, RBC's operations throughout the Eastern Caribbean.
The consortium announced Thursday that it has entered a definitive agreement for the purchase, but no details about the financial terms of the deal have been made public. The financial entities involved in the purchase are First National Bank St. Lucia Limited, Antigua Commercial Bank Limited, National Bank of Dominica Limited, the Bank of Montserrat Limited, and Bank of Nevis Limited. Head of RBC Caribbean Banking, Rob Johnson, says the banks presented their proposal to the Canadian bank earlier this year. The transaction is now subject to regulatory approval and other customary closing conditions, but it's expected to be finalized in the coming months. Managing Director of First National Bank St. Lucia Limited, Jonathan Johannes, said the consortium was formed specifically for the purpose of expanding the scale of the locally owned financial entities in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. While the Antigua and Barbuda government has welcomed the move, Information Minister Melford Nicholas said the Gaston Brown-led administration has always moved to ensure that locally owned banks play a more meaningful role in the economic system in the Twin Island nation.
The policy position of the government that whereas there's going to be consolidation in the local banking sector, in the commercial banking sector, we wanted to ensure that as far as possible that the consolidation remain within the context of locally owned banks. Improves our position. So from ACB standpoint, it would be a step in the right direction.
There are concerns that Belize is in recession after the latest statistics reveal a decline in economic activity. We have more in this report from Channel 5 Belize.
The contraction of Belize's economy in the third quarter of 2019 raises serious concerns about the overall performance of the country as it relates to the gross domestic product. When compared to last year, during the period July to September, GDP fell by 0.4%. The reduction in economic activity is attributed to a decrease in production in the primary sector, where banana production and marine exports are down by 4.3%. Notwithstanding the sharp decline, the Statistical Institute of Belize reports that government services grew by 4.6% in the tertiary sector.
The government services continue to play a big role in these indicators. Government's borrowing and spending on what they call government services. And I think that the government has been driving our economy for too long. We know that many of our main industries have not been performing well. We know that our exports have been falling continually, and we know that our imports have been rising. So our trade imbalance has been growing, and that is not healthy in any economy.
The unevenness of emphasis on goods and services that are exported against those that are brought in from outside of the country is also a sign that there is a growing deficit. But is the country's income, less its foreign investments, an accurate depiction in light of the fact that Belize imports considerably more than it produces?
GDP, to me, is an excellent indicator of the economy's size. But we have relied too much on GDP growth and GDP measurements, partially because it's easy. It's an easy indicator to measure and quantify the production of goods and services. But I believe that there are other measurements that we need to start using in our country to measure the welfare of our people, because GDP is not a very good indicator of the welfare of your country.
Defined as a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced and generally identified by a fall in GDP in 2 successive quarters, Belize's economy is in recession.
In Guyana, the Finance Ministry and the Bank of Guyana signed a memorandum of understanding for the operational management of the National Resources Fund. The details in this Newsroom Guyana report.
Begin oil production this month. The central bank on Wednesday signed the operational agreement with the Ministry of Finance for the National Resources Fund. The agreement seeks to address the day-to-day management of the funds, which will be kept in the U.S. Federal Reserve. Given recent publications on the reserve, Central Bank Governor Dr. Gobind Gangas said the reserve is one of the safest institutions He further explained the obligations of the Bank of Guyana in managing the petroleum revenues.
The Bank of Guyana shall be responsible for the daily operation of the fund, which shall include A. Investing the fund in eligible asset classes, B. Receiving deposits, making payments and accounting for all deposits into and withdrawal from the fund, maintain the books of account and records of all financial assets and liabilities of the fund, appointing and dismissing private managers, custodians, banking correspondents, dealers, brokers, and other financial intermediaries necessary for the proper operational management of the fund, preparing monthly, quarterly, and other reports as required by the Minister, meeting all the operational expenses relating to the management of the fund, which shall be compensated for from the fund.
According to the bill governing the fund, the government and other officials will face penalties for acts of omission or negligence. The Natural Resources Fund Act also provides for the appointment of 3 committees to manage the revenues. The committees are the Macroeconomic Committee, the Oversight Committee, and the Investment Committee. As of now, the Oversight Committee has not been established since the opposition and the private sector are yet to name representatives. However, Minister of Finance Winston Jordan said the Oversight Committee will not affect the functions of the others.
As regards the non-naming of a person by the opposition, that will not affect the workings of the Investment Committee nor the Macroeconomic Committee, because there are no compulsory numbers. It's just a quorum, I believe, is required. And whether they name the person or not won't affect the committee at all.
Other than the oversight body, the National Assembly's approval is needed to spend the monies accumulated in the fund. The minister expects oil revenue to start coming in until the 3rd month of oil production.
The parliamentary debate on 2 bills to decriminalize marijuana in Trinidad and Tobago have begun. TV6's Joshua Simogel reports.
Parliamentary debate on the 2 bills which seek to decriminalize the possession of small amounts of cannabis began with the Attorney General clarifying some issues of contention. Arguably, the highlight of AG Arawi's presentation was the change in position on the provision which allows for the growth of 4 plants for personal use.
The bill says male growing plants. We will strike off male. This came from the recommendation of the Forensics Division. The fact is that the plant is grown in both male and female species. It's required for cross-pollination and different iterant variations. The members of the public came back to us and pointed that out. We agree wholeheartedly with the submission. It'll just be for plants.
The AG then attempted to calm fears about the severity of the proposed fines for possession above 30 grams. It is proposed that persons in possession of 30 grams and under will not be subjected to fines or imprisonment. The opposition has said that the fines for possession of more than 30 grams, which range from $50,000 and upwards, are too severe. Former Health Minister Dr. Fuad Khan said while he supports the decriminalization of cannabis, the bills should be referred to a joint select committee. He questioned the government's position on public smoking, for example.
You can't just come and say it's a simple majority with draconian penalties and say, well, we'll pass it anyway because it's simple majority. If the penalties were like Jamaica, where if you're found smoking in a public place, you are fined like a traffic ticket, Madam Speaker, $500 Jamaican. Yeah, $500 Jamaican. If you're fined on a sidewalk, etc., $500 Jamaican.
Would you be satisfied if the public place smoking was treated with by the same fixed penalty notice we have here?
It would make sense.
With the proposed legislation requiring a simple majority for passage, the opposition member pleaded with the government to hold its hand.
In sports, we turn the spotlight on cricket as West Indies captain Pollard says there are positive takeaways from the recently concluded T20 series against India. Even though the host nation swept the series 2-1, Pollard hailed the performance of the Caribbean team and singled out Hayden Walsh and Keswick Williams.
Pretty well. You watch his stats in T20 cricket. It's up there in terms of being able to do well. So again, that's a positive for us. And him bouncing back, after that, first game, as well, and coming and showing his mettle, I think that was well done, on his behalf. Again, I said there's still room for improvement for him and for each and every one of us. But again, yes, that's a positive, we can take out of the series. I think even young Walshy, as well. He bowled well in the last couple of games. I think it was a very good track. A couple of bad balls here and there, you're going to get that. He's now, finding his feet in international cricket. So, all in all, yes, we lost 2-1, but it's not. I thought the guys stood up, for themselves, this series, and that was very, very well done in that aspect of it.
Pollard says he hopes that the team will draw from his influence and experience going forward.
What I have done is continue to play cricket how I know to play cricket, which is hard, and always want the will to win, as I said. And that's the only thing that I can bring to them. I can give them different scenarios, I can put things to them, I can show them examples of how a professional should operate, how we should prepare. And again, once I do it, again, it's just a matter of day forward. So I said we have a great bunch of guys in that dressing room, guys who are actually willing to learn despite many things. And it's just a matter for us just to harness that talent, and hopefully at the end of whatever, these guys come out better cricketers. At the end of the day, for us as West Indians, we are proud. Again, despite what a lot of people think, we play hard, we play with heart, but these guys are proud and these guys want to make a difference. So again, for me, it's just simply going out, showing them, we give them, lay it on the platter, and it's all for them to take.
Still in cricket, Cricket West Indies has appointed Australian Chris Brabazon as its first ever coach education manager, a move aimed at producing world-class players for the international sides. Brabazon, formerly the Western Australian Cricket Association's coach development manager, has signed a 3-year deal and will immediately oversee a Level 2 coaching course which gets underway in Kingston. And that's the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom. Thanks so much for watching.